This is Daybreak. And now, here is your host, Doug Barry.
Good morning. The sun is rising, and it's another daybreak. Currently 68 degrees under clear skies. Let me take a look out the radio B88 window here at the studios. The sun is just peeking up over the Pacific Ocean to the east, and it's another beautiful island sunrise. Now, our guest this morning is one of those that found us, and we're glad he did because he is really excellent as a musician, singer, songwriter, and his music is quite unique. His unique sound has been described by industry insiders as an emotionally powerful vocal style, masterfully united with music that is a fusion of classic 80s rock blended with modern soft rock and pop music. His music is authentic and real. This morning's guest has written over 2,000 songs. Joining us on Daybreak this morning from Chicago, Sarantos. Sarantos, aloha. Welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for having me today. I'm really happy to be here.
Your music is truly unique. It's well written and well performed, and it has a reminiscent sound of the 1980s, yet at the same time, it's current to today. How did you achieve the blend of both today's sound and the 80s sound?
I think what you mentioned is exactly what I'm trying to do. You know, I consider myself an 80s child. I love the 80s. I love 80s music. But I've never stopped listening to music. And I think all sorts of rock music, pop music, I really have tried to consciously blend it. And I hope it's a special type of sound that people kind of enjoy because it's exactly what I'm trying to do and it's coming from the heart.
When did you start singing?
Officially, I started releasing music 3 years ago, but I've been singing for as long as I can remember.
Where did you learn to sing?
One of the things that I kind of tell everybody is, believe it or not, I really have never taken vocal lessons, and I've been self-taught, which is both a blessing and a curse, I think. The same thing with my music, same thing with my lyrics, same thing with everything I'm doing. And now that I've dedicated myself to doing this the last 3 years, I am constantly every day looking at YouTube videos, reading anything I can get my hands on to improve my craft, my lyrics, my singing style. But essentially, I'm self-taught.
You're self-taught. How did you train yourself?
I don't think I'm anywhere near being done. So I think all I can tell you is when I listen to how I sounded when I was 20 years old versus a few years ago versus last year versus this year, I definitely see a pretty dramatic improvement. And I think there's no doubt that people that are trained in school or trained with great vocal teachers, it makes a huge difference because instead of part of the challenge is trying to figure out exactly what you're doing, what you're not doing, and your ear gets more trained. So, for example, every couple months I'll have a revelation as opposed to just singing what sounds right, and then you kind of realize, oh, there's 4 beats per measure, and I want to come in on the first beat, and you start training yourself, but you don't know how to train yourself unless you read about it. So it's been a challenge, but it's part of the journey. And I decided a long time ago that I was going to release music as is, and hopefully people appreciate how I keep getting better every song release and every year.
Sarantos, you have an interesting name. Where did the name Sarantos come from?
To be honest, I am of Greek descent, and Sarantos is essentially how you say Sam in Greek, which is my real name. When I was thinking about what to call myself, of course, every name known, it was all taken. I was racking my brain, and then finally I realized, you know what? This isn't taken. This is a pretty unique name, and I thought it was kind of cool, and I ran with it.
A lot of people in the industry use names like that, and I just find that very interesting. Now, what genre did you originally start singing?
I always kind of felt I was pop rock. There's some songs that are classic rock, some songs that are top 40 radio hit sounding songs. And I honestly love doing all of them. I mean, I don't really want to pigeonhole myself and sound the same on every song. So I've purposely tried to do that.
Sarantos, when did you start writing music?
Writing is one of my first loves. And I've been writing ever since I can remember learning how to write. In looking back at my records when I digitized things a couple of years ago, I would say 4th grade is about the time that I could actually say that, yeah, that looks like a song, and started saving them. Before that, it was probably bits and pieces and fragments. And again, without any training or anyone to kind of tell me, hey, this is a verse, this is a chorus. I can't say my early work was very inspirational, but it was put on paper and it existed.
Way back in fourth grade. That's very young. Now, did you originally start writing rock music?
That's a great question. I don't know. Yeah, it was rock. It was a little pop. Back in the 80s, I'm very influenced by Def Leppard, Survivor, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen. So those are kind of the styles that I guess I wrote more in. And I would say if I had to classify it, I would say it was mostly rock, but not all rock. I mean, it was a mixture.
Now, Sarantos, do you play any instruments?
Because I'm self-taught, I kind of tell everybody that I don't really play anything. I'm not an instrumentalist, but I can certainly screw around on the synthesizer, and I use on the computer Logic Pro. I think it's very easy when you're a little bit mathematical or you have time. You can pretty much pretend you play anything, but I don't think you'll ever see me up on stage playing a significant musical instrument unless it's like 4 bars or something straightforward. So I don't consider myself an instrumentalist, but if I'm at a computer for 8 hours and I can take my time, I mean, anybody can kind of sit and press a key and make a chord progression or do something like that, I think.
So do you predominantly use a computer to do your music? Is it mainly digital?
What I do is everything is created in Logic Pro. And what I'll do is when it gets past the demo stage and I start laying down the vocals, I will hire session musicians to lay down like a live guitar, live drums, because I think it's more authentic and it sounds better. The other thing about me is not only do I not have a label, but I've never used a recording studio. So I have my family room, which I think if people saw a picture of it, they would never say it's a professional studio and it doesn't have great acoustics, but everything is recorded. It is very indie. So even the things that sound radio quality, everything is done not in a professional studio. And I'm proud of that, actually.
When you write your songs, how do you go about writing a song?
Read all the time about how people feel pressure and they have writer's block and they don't really know what to write about, but I have a very different problem. I kind of can't turn it off. So I have well over a couple thousand songs. And to me, most of the time, the problem I have is I've tried to categorize them. They're all digitized now. So I'll have an email folder called Great Songs, another one called Ideas. And I'll kind of have to look through and really say, okay, what am I in the mood for? And what do I want the next project to be? So I have, it's a significant problem because I almost have to decide what topic do I want to write about. And sometimes I'm inspired, like my father's death a couple years ago. I wrote a song, What If I Never See You Again? And that was probably the most highest rated song of last year's CD. So we'll make exceptions, but every day you can sit and watch a movie or listen to a song and I'll hear a phrase and I'll write a song. It's a curse sometimes. I can't turn my mind off, I guess.
What about your family life growing up? Were others in your family musicians?
No. So I thank my parents for the upbringing they gave us. They were hard workers. They were immigrants. But the one thing that they definitely loved doing is having the radio on, listening to all sorts of music, from Greek music to American music, and encouraging us to sing, to dance. It really instilled in me a love for music from a very young age. I'm really almost sad sometimes that it took me this long to kind of launch on this journey. And it's something I've always wanted to do. So I'm happy that I'm finally doing it. And I really feel that my soul is freer.
Sarantos, where are you originally from?
I'm from Chicago. I was born and raised in Chicago.
Born and raised in Chicago. Outstanding. What influence has your background had on your music?
I think like anyone else who is an artist, I think sometimes we try to capture the pain. I think sometimes there's songs or art that we produce or music that we write that is very personal to us and has a meaning. I think sometimes some of the things I sing about or write about have not happened to me, but I like to empathize and put myself in other people's situations. So I'd like to think I've been through a lot in my life, and I've tried to capture it. I don't think there's any significant event in my life that I haven't put into a song. It might not be released yet, but it definitely is a way for me to deal with pain, love, heartache, every emotion you can think of. I think music is cathartic in a way.
You write solo. Do you ever collaborate with anyone?
Not lyrically. I have collaborated with people musically. I have dabbled in doing some covers, done some instrumentals, but to me, I hope that as my music grows and I get bigger, it's not that I haven't collaborated because I haven't wanted to. It's more that I'm pretty small and I don't think I've never really been approached by people to, but I would love to. I would love to do backup vocals, duets. I'd love to do things with almost anybody.
Now, you say that you hire musicians from time to time. Who else plays with you? Do you actually have a band, or are you just a solo artist?
I'm a solo music artist. I did the Toronto Music Festival a couple of years ago, and that was a very interesting process because I had hired some musicians and a band to do it, and then 2 weeks before the Toronto show, they told me they couldn't do it and they didn't have visas. So I struggled to find a cover band, and for the last year and a half, I've been searching. Found a good guitarist. I found a bass player, but then he went away to school. I don't have a drummer, so it's been a challenge to find a consistent band because I get invited to do shows and to do things a lot, but I don't want to do it unless I have a band that I can rely on. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought it'd be so difficult to find musicians that can do a gig once a week or something, but it has been the bane of my existence. So for the last year, I've kind of been like the Beatles in reverse. They started gigging everywhere and then just being studio musicians or a studio band. I'm kind of at this point frustrated because I'm more a studio music artist and I want to hopefully at one point just be gigging everywhere, but it's not a reality right now.
Sarantos, where do you like to write your music? Is there a particular place?
There really isn't, because I can go to the gym and work out, and again, all of a sudden I see an ad on TV or I see something, I just write. Going out for walks. I don't have a favorite place to write because I just kind of write everywhere. I can write on my couch watching a TV show. I can write. I don't really ever sit down and say, hey, I have to knock out a song. And even I was asked to do a song for a movie a couple months ago, and I hadn't done that ever. So I said, this is going to be interesting, but sent me the script. I read it. I looked at it. They told me kind of what they wanted. 5-10 minutes later, the lyrics were done. I haven't been under a time crunch ever to be told, hey, sit in the studio and write these lyrics, but I would welcome that challenge.
And real quick, before we go to break, I'd like to ask you, how do you get ideas to write your music? Is it just things that you experience daily, things from the past?
It could be both. Most of the time at this point, because I have such a wide library, things that are happening that day, it might be a friendship, it might be a relationship, it might be something I see on TV, something I hear about. I'll read the USA Today, Yahoo News. Sometimes I'll read an article about something completely unrelated, and I'll just write a song about it. I think I'm very open to inspiration from any source.
Well, Sarantos, we have to pause for a break. When we come back, we'll talk more with Sarantos about his music. Sarantos and I will be waiting right over there on the other side of the break. I'm Doug Barry. Stay with us. Sarantos takes us through the break with one of my favorites, Easy to Believe.
This is Daybreak.
I'm dead 'cause I carelessly believe you're so dead, easy to believe.
You gotta love that song, Sarantos, Easy to Believe. Welcome back. This is Daybreak. I'm Doug Barry. Find out what's happening in our region of the world. Tune in to Midday Pacific at 12 noon on your local 3N network station. Our guest this morning, joining us from Chicago, musician, singer-songwriter, Sarantos. Sarantos, what inspired you to write Easy to Believe?
When I sat down to write Easy to Believe, essentially it was a song about two lovers, and just that love made it easy to believe in the other person. So that was essentially the basic premise to the song. If I remember correctly, I think I wrote that about, 20 years ago. When I looked at the music, I kind of wanted something a little carefree, easy listening. So that was basically the inspiration to the song.
You know, that song does not sound 20 years old. I mean,
well, the lyrics were written 20 years ago.
The
music was done about a year before it was released.
It's really one of my favorite songs. Now, you wrote that song solo because you don't really co-write with anyone. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
What genre would you classify Easy to Believe? Is that pop? Is it?
Yeah, I think it's essentially a pop song, but some people have thought it's easy listening. see either of those genres. Obviously, I think everything I do is a mixture of genres.
Yeah, you have a lot of crossover in genres that I've noticed that, they can go either way. And that's really talented. That's a real talent to be able to do that.
Yeah, on the flip side, I'm sure it's frustrating to some people because if you only like rock music and here's me putting out a song like I Sing, which is kind of playful pop. But what I try to do is I try to just do what feels right. And I just want to basically not pigeonhole myself. How many times do people like an artist and all their songs sound the same? And they get bored with their singing style. They get bored with the same drum beat. They get bored. So I've always tried to be a little bit different just for variety.
Well, I've worked at various radio stations throughout my career, and one of the first jobs I had was at a country station, and I remember we had crossover country, and I remember talking to the program director and asking him, is this particular song really appropriate? And he looked at me and said, well, what is country? And I kind of stood there because, we do tend to put labels on things, and maybe we shouldn't do that. Absolutely.
I think whenever you set up your stuff for distribution, they ask you what genre is it, what subgenre, and people disagree with me. I did a song on my first CD that I thought was a country song, and people would be like, this isn't country, this isn't even pop country. Again, everyone has their own unique set of influences, and I'm not going to sit and tell people if they listen to my song, Easy to Believe, and say, oh no, this is easy listening. I'm not going to argue with them. There is an element of that in there.
As I said, I think it's good that we don't put labels on things because a song like Easy to Believe, it could be played on a lot of different radio formats. I really commend you for the talent that you have. Now, was there anyone else playing with you on Easy to Believe, or did you do that song all alone?
That song did have, and I have to remember back. I don't want to misquote anything because I've done so many songs now. But I do believe there was a separate guitarist for that and a separate drummer too that I hired. So they replaced the music in Logic as it was initially set up. So sometimes what they do is they can deviate from it. They can mimic it exactly the same. But again, if you use loops, there are professional people that have recorded things. If you use drum machine, which I try not to, except for some of the EDM or dance songs that sound goes with that. It really just depends.
Sarantos, where did you record Easy to Believe?
The vocals were recorded in my family room.
You recorded that at home?
Yeah.
That is really, really incredible how technology has come about such that you can produce studio quality music at home. Now, how many albums have you released?
This is my third official year doing this. What I've tried to do is every year, in November, the official CD comes out with all the songs that have been released throughout the year. They're usually 11. But what I've done is my first year, I also released a surprise Christmas CD, which had, I think, like 30 different tracks on there. Last year, I released a solo instrumental CD that had 15. So I kind of try to surprise the fans all the time. This year, I'm also going to release a surprise CD in November that is full instrumentals. So by the end of this year, it'll be 6 official CDs.
How do your albums differ musically from album to album?
In the first CD, I definitely tried to do everything. I did a dance song, I did a rap song, I did a country song, I did a jazz song. Because again, I didn't want to be pigeonholed. I wanted people to be like, oh wow, look at the variety. I've heard that it takes people 2 to 3 albums to get their niche sound down. And I've kind of noticed that too. I think when you look at songs like Easy to Believe, What If I Never See You Again from last year, and then this year, if you look at the song that just came out, Dreamer, which is rated my highest song ever, I can definitely see where my niche and my sound is. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to, again, use the same drum, the same guitar in every song. So I'm still going to experiment, even singing-wise. There's a song coming out in 2 months, Perfection, that is completely different than what I'm used to doing. Because I think you want to push the envelope. I don't want my fans to look at me and be like, oh, yeah, okay, I like my voice. But if they hear it after the 30th song, they're going to get bored of it. They're going to get tired of it.
Sarantos, if you could label your style of music, aside from genre, your style of music, what would you call your style?
Definitely call it pop rock. But if you're looking for a specific style, I would call it edgy experimentation.
Oh, that's great.
Trying to throw different things together.
That's a great description. Now, how did you develop the 80s sound in your music? Is that come from just being raised as a child and listening to 80s music?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I have all these 80 influences, and I think just innately or subconsciously, it's just there. And one of the interesting things, again, I don't know where it came from, but I get reviews for all my songs. And one of the bands consistently that the vast majority of my songs, they say sounds like for different artists, is the Beatles. Certainly like the Beatles, but I don't consider myself like a diehard Beatles fan. It's amazing if I tell you every other song, one of the top 3 artists is the Beatles. And I try to listen to my songs critically, and I'm like, well, I don't think I sound like the Beatles. Sometimes I can see the relationship, but I would have never thought that. I thought, oh, Def Leppard, Journey, Survivor, that those are my biggest influences. But I don't think, I think I've had one song that sounded a little bit like Journey, but the Beatles definitely was not what I thought people would think I sound like. So that's been an interesting revelation.
And for our listeners, make sure you listen to the music. But now that you mention that, there's a very, very slight hint of that I hear in your music.
Again, I'm surprised, but I agree with it because, like I said, almost every other song now, they're like one of the artists is the Beatles. So I've stopped denying it, and I've started to accept that, okay, maybe all these fans and all these music reviewers, maybe they're onto something.
Would you say that your music is more pop or more rock?
In general, I would say more rock, but it really depends on the song. I think if you listen to last year's music, I Sing, You Just Don't Have It, those definitely are more on the pop side. I would say those are 60, 70% pop. Whereas other songs, like I said, Dreamer that just came out, I mean, I would put that at 80% pop. So I think within a song, I can sit and say, okay, Easy to Believe, I think it's easy listening, 40%, 60% pop, or maybe 50% and 10% rock. But someone else might listen to that and think something completely different. And I think we could both be right.
Sarantos, does your music reflect more today, or is it more a bit of a throwback?
I can tell you that I try to make it be a throwback reflecting today's music. I think some songs are received differently. I think some songs definitely are like considered just throwback, and some are like, okay, this is kind of edgy and new and different. The one thing that I've tried to do, which I don't think people get bored of my music, and I take that as a compliment because I know a lot of people, the thing that kills musicians is, oh, this sounds exactly like Survivor, or this sounds exactly like Justin Bieber. And when I listen to the radio, when I go to some of these conferences, I'm always trying to find new music. The mistake I made when I first started is you're too embarrassed to think that you're good. And then you try to karaoke. And I think karaoke, for years I did karaoke, but I think it really hindered me and hurt me because it took me a long time on this journey, probably up until last year, to start realizing I don't want to sound like someone else. I want to sound like me. And then I think once you focus on originality and not trying to sound like someone else and not trying to play the guitar like someone else, there's no question you have influences from other people. But I think for me, probably after the second song last year, it was really a revelation because I started realizing, why am I trying to sound like this guy on this song or this guy on this song? And it definitely has freed me. And I think if I could give advice to the artists, forget karaoke. I mean, forget covers, which is interesting I say that because now I'm going to release a few covers. But even in those, I'm really trying to sound like me, not like the person I'm covering. That's just been a real revelation for me. And I think it's a problem for a lot of artists.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because when I first listened to your music, I didn't think like, oh, he sounds like this person or that person. I just thought this has a really good blend of 80s style, but with a modern sound. And quite honestly, there's no one else out there that has achieved that. So, yeah, I really commend you for doing that. What are your favorite instruments that you like to use in your music?
Well, first, Doug, I want to say thank you for that compliment. Again, I think people always think of guitar, piano, bass, drums, and those are probably the bass instruments. But as I get better musically, which the musical part of it, I consider my greatest weakness because, again, I wasn't trained. I have tried to figure out I can tell you, I have apps on my phone. I do things all the time to try to improve myself, but I will sit and read music theory and I'll remember it and I'll learn it and I'll think, okay, I know what the chromatic scale is. I know what this is. And then literally like the next day I'll forget it. And I've been doing this consistently for 3 years. So I do think it makes a difference when you start young. And I do think that some people, if you're trained and you learn it the right way, it sticks with you forever. It's like riding a bike. So for me, I consider that my biggest weakness. But as I evolve, I personally do want to throw different instruments here and there. You know, if you look at what Justin Bieber did with Skrillex, I mean, call that track candy, call that whatever you want. But to me, I do like to throw different instruments and sounds. I have a song coming out in a couple months for Halloween called Halloween Song. I think it's a great song. It's going to be really cool, but I have zombie groans on there. I have things that I don't want to limit myself to just drum, bass, guitar, piano the whole time. I really don't. And I think bands do that a lot.
Sarantos, we're coming up against a break, but I want to get one quick question in here. You say you don't write or have the sound of robotic songs. What do you mean by robotic songs?
Again, I don't want to mention any specific artist, but I think a lot of today's music sounds perfect. Everything is perfect to the beat. Everything is tuned significantly. And what I want to do when people are like, well, wait a minute, why did your rhyme scheme is ABAB, but here it's thrown off. If you have a message in a song, if you have a song about, there's a certain part to it that's anxiety, you can vary the lyrics, you can vary the music. So a lot of people make things sound perfect and it's robotic. Why do some of these artists, technically their vocals are perfect, technically the guitar is perfect. You can automate things in Logic. You can make everything specific, everything sound, but it doesn't sound real. You know, if you go see these people in concert, and again, I know in concert you can use all sorts of things to make things sound perfect there too, but I don't want that.
Sometimes
if my fans want that, I don't think they're ever going to.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the imperfections kind of help the song along.
Absolutely. Especially if it's a song that is about pain, you know, or about a breakup or about, you want those imperfections. And I'm not saying that once a year I don't try to put out a song out there that sounds kind of perfect and everything is tuned and everything is, but in general, to me, I don't think that's real. If my fans come to see me in concert, I'm going to sound like myself. I'm not going to sound like completely different and completely tuned. That's just the way I think it should be.
Well, Sarantos, we have to hold right here for a break. When we return, we'll ask Sarantos about his many music videos and more. I'm Doug Barry. We'll be right back. We're back from break. This is Daybreak. I'm Doug Barry. Welcome back. We'd like to hear from you. Email your comments and questions to daybreak@radiob88.com. Hey, you have something on your mind? You can phone into Oceania Talk at 2 p.m. today and every weekday on your local 3N network station. Our guest this morning, joining us from Chicago, musician, singer, songwriter, Sarantos. Sarantos, you've done many, many videos. How many have you done?
Oh boy, Doug, I couldn't even. I'm trying to think. I've done 11 songs per year. Of the official real music videos, I guess I've done about 26, and I release a new one every month. But the other things that I also do is there's also lyric videos every month. There's also now we're doing uncut behind the scenes videos every month. And then the Christmas CD, the solo instrumental CD, all those 24 and 15 tracks all had videos too. So I would guess it's easily over 100 total videos.
Now, Sarantos, you have a song, and it's, again, another one of my favorites. They're all becoming my favorites, but you have a song entitled Another Day with a Broken Heart. What is that song about?
This is just a sad pop rock song, and it's about a guy with a broken heart. He essentially is in a relationship. He tries to make things right. He's trying to do all the things he can, but he comes to the realization that they're just too far apart. And another day goes by and another day with a broken heart. The mood, the instrumentation, it's almost paradoxical because the song is smooth, the instrumentation is steady, and his voice kind of sounds very somber, very defeated. So it's almost a little bit opposite of what you'd expect. You know, he's not sitting there crying. Personally, it's one of my favorite songs to be honest with you.
Where did you write that song?
I probably wrote that song about 7-8 years ago. And it was a time when, everyone in their relationships, you could be in a very happy relationship, but you're going to go through ups and downs. And it was just a period of down in my life. That was the inspiration for the song.
Why did you decide to use that song in a music video?
Well, I use every single original song I have in a music video. So the answer is all of them get a music video to it.
And what other videos do you have out there? You have for every single song that you've written, you have a music video?
Yeah. When I first sat down and thought, what do I want to stand for? What do I want to do? The one thing I realized just in being a fan, but also in the music business, is what do people do? They put out a CD every 3 years, off the face of the earth after their tour, and then the cycle repeats. Most bands break up after 3 to 5 albums. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have my fans come along on the journey, and I wanted to give them a new song every month. Then I decided, well, why should I only put out 2 or 3 music videos for my CD every 3 years? I think that's a fun way to create the story and to really give hidden meanings to the song. So I decided I was going to do a new music video every month along with the song. And then the last thing I also did is, which is very different than any other artist, but I decided to write a book chapter every month that parallels a song. And it's a fiction fantasy book. So this year I'm on the 3rd book, which is going to complete the trilogy. I love writing, and writing books and chapters is kind of fascinating because in a song you're limited. You have X amount of words you can cram into that melody. In a book, you have 20 pages, you can write a little bit more about it. And the book chapters are exactly about the song, and they parallel the journey of Sarantos through, a magical kingdom. And it enables me to put little nuggets in there that, again, give hidden meanings to each of the songs each month, too.
Sarantos, where do you find the time for all of this?
I don't get to sleep much. But it's fun, There's nothing like, heard, I'm sure, Steve Jobs and all these famous people say, but when you love doing it, you don't look at the clock and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, wow, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I should think about getting to bed. I got to go to work in the morning. But you just do it. It's not work. I can't even imagine one day if I had a support system. There's no manager. There's no ad agency. There's no marketing support. When you do everything yourself, sometimes you do wish that somebody could help you out. Somebody could help you distribute the music so you don't have to go and list it on all these sites. Because then it'd be more fun to just sit and create and spend more time with your creations and your fans.
Where do you like to film your videos?
Videos are probably the hardest part of the journey for me. And the reason for that is, again, I don't have a label. I don't have $50,000 to a couple $1 million per music video. But in the same token, I don't want to have this crappy video out there. I have filmed them all over the place. Anytime if I go somewhere for a meeting or a vacation, I will take time out of that vacation to make sure I film something for a future video. Because again, if every video was shot in Chicago, people eventually would be like, okay, this is boring. I've seen the Sears Tower. Why would I want to see that again? But the thing that I try to do is I really, really try to have a cool story. So unlike most videos that just have the artist and it's just them just kind of grooving and singing a little bit, to me, I always try to have a story. The biggest limitation is the budget, and the second biggest limitation, which I hope goes away as I get bigger, is it's hard for me to get actors, actresses, people that want to be in the videos. And I'm hoping that eventually I could just put a post on Facebook or social media and say, hey, I need 3 extras to pretend to be a policeman and a fireman for a video. Can you meet me downtown tomorrow? And I hope that that'll take away that huge strain too. It'll be fun. I'd love to have the fans in more videos.
Now, are you going to continue to make more videos?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't see myself stopping.
Is a song like Another Day with a Broken Heart, and I know we don't like to put labels on, but would you consider that more pop, more rock, or what style, where would you classify that song?
I would definitely consider it more pop, and I think a song like that has a cool rock element to it that supports it, but that is when I envisioned that song and what I think I created is a top 40 hit. That's essentially the style and sound that I thought I created now.
Well, Sarantos, now that we're playing your music on Daybreak on Radio B88, how do you think your music's going to do out here in Hawaii?
There's definitely some songs I think fit with the Hawaii culture. I think Another Day with a Broken Heart can be a really cool song. Not that I think everyone in Hawaii is heartbroken and crying on the beach, but Easy to Believe, I think, is a perfect song for out there. And we all wish we could be in Hawaii and just sitting at the beach and loving life. And I think some of my music definitely appeals to the Hawaiian culture.
We had another guest a while back that wanted to ask me a question, and it was actually kind of a joke question. And she asked me, do you have love songs out there in Hawaii? Because she had been out here, and that's all we have out here are love songs. Now, have you ever been to Hawaii?
I have not. I wanted to a couple years, but the opportunity slipped through my fingers. But that's definitely a place I want to come out to. And I will tell you what I tell only a few select people, but I'd be happy to perform for free. So if there's someone out there that's interested, really, as long as the travel expenses for the band are paid for, I'd love to come out there. And I would probably make it a little mini vacation for me, too, while I'm out there.
As well as probably do a video.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to be honest, I don't know specifically what charity I would pick for out there for the performance to dedicate the proceeds to, but I'm sure you guys have some great causes out there, too.
Now, that's something that we mentioned in the introduction, that a portion of what you make on your music goes to charity, and a good portion. Why did you choose to do that?
I think one day, if I make it and I reveal to the world what I do for a daily living, I think it'll make a little more sense. But I think at the end of the day, again, when I sat down and said, what am I trying to accomplish here? I'm really not trying to get rich. I'm really not trying to get famous. One selfish reason I'm doing this is I feel like it's good for my soul to finally be releasing this music to the world, to be myself. In terms of my fans, again, all I want them to do is spread the word, and they can take all my free downloads I give them and share it. But the charity thing was important to me, and it started with my dad, who passed away with lung cancer. When I thought about this, I mean, how many cars do you need? How many houses do you need? I don't need very much money to keep me happy. So I figured, why not donate a portion to charity? And initially, I was going to donate 100% to charity, but a couple of the people in the industry I talked to told me I was crazy. And of course, if I had a label, they would take the majority. And so I kind of settled on 33% of profits. Last year, even though people do the numbers, obviously I'm not touring, so they can pretty much tell I'm not very profitable, but I still donated a couple $1,000s last year just because I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I'm hoping that as I grow and as I become profitable, I'll have more money to give to the charities. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Really commendable. Now, if you do come here to Hawaii, do you think that you'd write a song about your experiences here?
Oh, for sure. I'm sure a couple days a week, I'm sure I'd probably get about 40 songs out of that. I typically will write anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 songs a day. But when I'm on vacation, even if there's work involved, I typically have found that I'll write up to 5 or 10 songs a day. I can definitely imagine being inspired just in that wonderful land of yours. I think Hawaii is beautiful, and I definitely on my bucket list.
Well, you're always welcome here. Sarantos, we have to step aside for a break. When we return, Sarantos and I will talk more about his music and his future. Sarantos takes us through the break with Another Day with a Broken Heart. I'm Doug Barry. Stay there. We'll be back.
This is Daybreak.
When I was with you under the sun, always had so much damn fun.
Our guest joining us this morning from Chicago, musician, singer, songwriter, Sarantos. Sarantos, where did you write or record Another Day with a Broken Heart?
The song was recorded like all my songs. The vocals were recorded in my family room. And the instrumentation for this one actually was mostly in Logic Pro. So it was mostly on the computer. If I remember correctly, I don't think there were any live track in Another Day with a Broken Heart.
Where do you like to record your music? You like to record that at home, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, let's talk about your next project. What do you have in the works for us?
There's a couple of different things I'm working on. One is the surprise CD at the end of the year, which is going to be full instrumentals. The other thing that I've been working on here and there is I finally decided, and I haven't really revealed this yet, but I guess I kind of did earlier, but essentially I am starting to do some covers of some of my favorite songs. So the first one I finished is one of my all-time favorite songs, Eye of the Tiger. So I'm just trying to decide. I think what I'm going to do with the covers is just release one here or there, and then maybe put them all on a CD and have a third surprise CD next year. I haven't quite figured that out yet. The one thing that is burning a hole in my soul, which I really want to do, is I really want to do more gigs all over the place. The one thing I'm going to set up on my website soon is where fans can basically request for me to do a show, because I realize that, I'm not Taylor Swift, I'm not Adele. And if X amount of people put like a $5 deposit, I'll go to London, or I'll go to India, or I'll go to Hawaii, or anywhere. And
I think right now we're
bigger. That
Sarantos, I think right now we're requesting that you do a show out here in Hawaii.
I'd be happy to. And I'm not sitting there looking to, like I said, I do it for free. The only thing, honestly, that I would want is just the expenses of the band. And what I'm hoping happens is if venues like me and different promoters that we can get on board, and they can say, hey, listen, we want you to come to Hawaii to do this show here, and we'll donate a third of profits to this charity. And again, I don't even have to make money. The promoters can make the money, the venues can make the money, and the charity can take the third that would have gone to me. I just want to do it because I love doing it. I love singing. I'd love to come out there and interact with the fans. And I'm the kind of guy that sits there after the show for half hour, 2 hours, just signing CDs and talking to people, because that's what it's all about.
Has your sound changed from CD to CD?
I think it has. I think when I look at the sound, I think it definitely gets better and better. I can tell you when I was doing my first CD, it was me doing what most people do when they sing in the shower or in the car. It was me just being like, okay, this sounds good. My second CD, I started figuring things out more in terms of pitch control, in terms of less auto-tune. This CD, not only, I think one song, the entire CD has auto-tune because it's a dance song kind of thing. So that's the effect I was going for. But now I'm also realizing the beats, when to come in. I'm listening to all the instrumentation separately, and I have a better understanding of technique. My range is better. My breath support is better. But again, these are things that I've been working on for hours and hours, and I feel like I'm about 60% of the way. I feel like I'm nowhere near to getting an A grade. So, and you know how it is in the industry. I mean, some people on the reviews say my voice is the best thing ever. Some people say it's terrible. The reviews overall have continued to trend upward and get better, but I'm not satisfied. I don't think I'm anywhere close to where I ultimately envision myself being musically, vocally, lyrically. But that's part of the journey.
Sarantos, your future releases, are you going to continue to self-produce those?
Yeah, but again, I'm not going to lie. I do hope that one day that, again, I don't want to say the term made it, but I do hope that one day I can have help, where I can have a producer that says, hey, you know what? You wrote the song. Here's some music. To me, in a perfect world, it'd be great to find a musical complement and have a producer that we can talk about. I can listen to it and I can say, hey, can you pan this left? Can you do this? So I still ultimately want to be in charge of the creative control, but it would be nice not to have to sit there doing all the analytics and moving stuff around and syncing it up. That would be perfect, because then I could spend that time touring, doing shows, and doing some of the other things that are more fun.
Are you going to continue to write and record at home?
Yeah, I'm sure, again, if one day, I can't imagine that changing, for the simple fact of what I'm doing costs a tremendous amount of money. And if I wasn't recording at home and I was recording in a studio, well, there's no way to do that unless you have X amount of sales and you're bringing in X amount of money. And that's going to change the dynamic too. Even if a label says, okay, we agree with you, you have creative, they're not going to want me recording in my family room. They're going to want me recording in the studio because it's easier to edit, it's easier to bring backup singers there. So I understand all that, but I wouldn't be able to do that unless I had a certain sales volume, unless I had a certain, because again, when you put out a new song, a new video, and this all is very expensive. And if you start adding all those costs, again, I don't want to lose sight of that. To me, it's about the fans, it's about the charity. And if you start using studios, can you imagine putting out 6 CDs in 2 years? How expensive that would cost just for that alone?
Incredibly expensive, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way. I mean, you'd have to be selling like Taylor Swift and Adele to even be able to do something like that.
So where do you see your music going in the future?
I think we found the term earlier, edgy experimentation.
Edgy experimentation.
I think I'm going to keep it. Yeah, I'm going to actually add that to my bio. I don't know where that came from, but you inspired me. So that it is what I'm trying to do, and I think I'm going to keep trying to do that.
Well, you hear that, everyone. You heard it first here on Daybreak.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be on the bio in a week. So, yeah, I think just pushing the envelope, pushing the limits, and just seeing what happens.
Well, now, every music guest that we have on Daybreak, we ask this question. It's a two-part question. The first part is relatively easy. The second part, everybody has a little trouble with. What song of yours is your absolute favorite?
I would say at this point today, Dreamer. The song that just came out.
Beautiful song. Ago. I love that song. Okay, here comes the second part. What song of anyone else's is your all-time favorite? Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. Ooh, that was quick. We have never had a guest answer that quick.
Anytime I'm down or I need a boost, I listen to that song. It really gets me going.
Is there anyone else that you'd like to work with in the future?
I mean, if I had a wish list, you can name anybody from Taylor Swift, Adele, Katy Perry, Bruno Mars, Justin Timberlake, Adam Levine, Pharrell. You know, I'd love to work with any of them in any capacity, whether it's me helping them with lyrics, whether it's me doing backup vocals, or anything. I mean, those are stars. What can you say?
Well, we've talked about Dreamer for a little bit. Tell us about that song. What inspired it?
The inspiration to Dreamer, that song definitely, there's no question about it, is about me. My entire life, people have told me I'm a dreamer. You know, I've always had my head in the clouds. And for a significant part of my life, even though they said that, and even though I feel like I've accomplished some things, but I also feel like I've made more mistakes than anybody out there. I mean, I know that for a fact. That's just how I feel. I feel like Dreamer is me. And the sarcasm in the song, when you look at the lyrics, when I sarcastically, you know, how'd you figure that out? The flip to that is, who cares? I don't bother anybody. I work hard. Nobody supports me. My obligations are my own, and I take care of them. So my response is, who cares if I'm a dreamer? I'm not hurting anybody. Is it a bad thing to want your dreams to come true? And if mine involve music and being a rock star or being up on stage with Adele or whatever they involve, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think at the end of the day, the song basically is for the everyday normal person to let them know to go for it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Great advice from Sarantos. Sarantos, do you have a website?
I do. The website is www.melogia.com. And I encourage people to sign up for the free email list. I don't spam people. I've never asked them to buy anything. I literally just send them 2 emails a month when the new song is out and when the new video is out. And they can also on my website find links to my YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever their social media of choice is. And I encourage them to interact because I do it all myself. So when they put a post on there, if they email, if they put something on there, I'm the one who responds to them. And I truly appreciate it. I respect it. And everything I do is for the fans.
And where can our listeners find your music?
They can, again, on the website, melogia.com, they can download all my songs for free, but it's distributed everywhere. If they prefer iTunes, Amazon, CD Baby, Spotify, any of the platforms, Apple Music, it's everywhere. They can definitely stream it. They can buy it. They can do whatever their heart desires.
And if our listeners can't remember where to find Sarantos, you can always go to the RadioB88.com website. Go to the Daybreak page. At the bottom, you'll see a menu that says Daybreak Shows. Click on that, and you'll see Sarantos' show listed for this morning. You'll see a link to his Facebook, his Twitter page, and to his website. Make sure you go on Facebook and like him, follow him on Twitter, and do check out his website. Sarantos, we've run out of time for this morning, and we'd like to thank you, Sarantos, for being our guest on Daybreak this morning.
Doug, I really want to thank you. I want to thank the station, and I want to thank your fans for having me and for spending this time with me. I appreciate it, and you're making my dreams come true, so thank you.
And we'd like to thank all of our Daybreakers for joining us this morning. Our quote for the day, failure is success if we learn from it. Until next time, Sarantos takes us out with Dreamer. I'm Doug Barry. Go out and enjoy the day.
This has been Daybreak. Be sure to visit the website at radiob88.com.
Once upon a time, not too long ago.
Economic news is up next, followed by Midday Pacific on your local 3N network station.
You say I'm a dreamer. How'd you figure that out? Was it the